What's up, everybody? It's HorrorDeconstruction. You can find us on YouTube, for now, Instagram, as well as Facebook, with yours komp and
Keychain Massacre.
as well as
Quinoa.
from the nearly defunct HorrorHarbor.tumblr.com. And today's film is...
Don't Look Now.
Ah.
1973. When you tell someone not to look, they're obviously going to look.
It's true.
Don't Look Now, 1973. This is part of Thea's Time of the Month, which she gives half to Danny for some reason.
It's my time of the month, too.
Stop shaming me.
A married couple grieving the recent death of their young daughter are in Venice when they encounter two elderly sisters, one of whom is psychic and brings a warning from beyond. Directed by
Wow.
Nicholas Roeg. Written by, the short story is by Daphne du Maurier.
You got this,
right,
I believe you.
Half French.
I am not half
Daphne
French.
du Maurier.
She's not from the French part.
Screenplay by Alan Scott. Starring Julie Christie, Donald Sutherland, Hilary Mason, and a whole bunch of other people like Cielo Martinez, Massimiliano Serrato, blah, blah, blah. So, Danny, why did you pick Don't Look Now?
Because it's supposed to be like one of the best horrors ever in all the lists.
We kind of pulled your arm on this, right? Wasn't it between this and the... What was that cave movie?
The
Cave
Descent.
movie.
The Descent.
Oh, The Descent,
Right.
and also there were a few others I wanted, but like they had like rape scenes and stuff.
Okay, so
so
it's
I
a
would have
movie
done The
about
Descent too.
you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
saw that. I saw that a couple years ago. It was okay.
Anyway, this was considered every list because I run out
It's
of
a
ideas
classic.
of movies, and it's like, oh, this is like one of the top movies ever.
Right.
And I had never seen it, so
Yeah, I'm glad I saw
There
it,
you go.
actually. I've always heard about this movie being terrifying for whatever it is, and I was watching it. So set up the storyline. Let me set it to Thea, because Danny will just go on for hours and not explain anything. Thea, what's the story about?
So in the opening scene, I
How
don't
dare
even remember
you.
his name. I always call him Donald because his name is Donald Sutherland.
That works.
But
Kiefer
John,
Sutherland's father.
basically the parents are indoors doing what have you. And
The OG Lost
he's
Boy.
like studying his next job, because he restores old buildings, and the kids are playing outside, and the little girl chases a toy into the pond and then drowns. And
It's very dramatic the way it's shot.
it's very dramatic. Lots of back and forth.
Like they throw a ball. At first I thought it was memories of the wife and husband, and then I realized it wasn't.
It's their kids, who they
they were
really were not watching.
No, not at all.
Christine.
Not at any point in the movie.
Well, yeah, I guess that's sort of, what do they call that? That sort of free-range parenting, sort of like now.
Yeah, the opposite of helicopter parenting, where your kids
Yeah.
drown.
The
Latchkey
mother
kids?
reminded
Is that
me
what it-
of...
no.
The mother of... No, latchkey kids, I think, are like kids of bums or something like that. No offense, I guess. I don't know. I
Damn.
Listen to a podcast. Anyway, so it was funny. Julie Christie sort of reminds me of Robin Wright Penn. In
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
Like
Who?
the first season of House of Cards, when she was fucking hot. Oof.
She's
I
hot in
never
every
saw that
season.
show,
She is
but
pretty hot.
this mom is super hot.
There's some movie with Robin Wright Penn and some other old, some lady where they're like older women in their like 40s or 50s, and they're banging each other's sons. It's a good
Oh,
poster.
I thought you were saying
Ooh.
they're
Yeah.
banging each other.
That sounds kind of kinky.
No, maybe they do that too. I don't know. Anyway, so this
No.
has Julie Christie. This movie got a big hubbub because apparently Warren Beatty was dating Julie Christie at the time, and he saw footage of the sex scene. This is the first time I saw like a sex scene in a film.
What do
I
you think of the
wasn't,
sex scene? I feel like we could do an episode about it.
Yeah.
When I saw a sex
It's
scene,
there's
Okay,
so
go
much
ahead, Danny.
rolling.
Please tell.
It's a
I love-
lot of tumbling.
There's a lot of tumbling on the bed. Like
Nobody
it's really.
nobody has sex like that.
I
I like
mean,
to have sex right over the staircase and fall
Like,
right
I
down.
guess in between things, but they just sort of rolled for most of it.
did you ever see when they test cars to see if they'll like flip or tilt, and they'll put like these like arms on the side of the car to stop it from flipping, and they'll be going around tight curves and shit. I feel like they should put like a suit on them with like extension arms to protect them if they fall off the bed.
You think that's
Yeah.
just how Donald Sutherland fucks? Like that's how he fucks? Like he's
Yeah,
like,
I do.
ooh, ooh, like that, and then he's like.
He's
to
like
think
one
of
of
his
those
character.
tops.
I was
that
getting
just-
like slight vertigo like watching it. Like I feel like I would get dizzy if I was fucking like
It
I
was a
will
lot.
say this: I can mostly take it or leave like sex scenes in movies. I've just no interest in really in films themselves. Like, if you're gonna see a sex scene, just make a fucking porno film. Who cares? But like I thought it was really well done with like the cutting in between of them getting like both doing their walk of shame after.
If this was a found footage, they would have put a GoPro on Donald Sutherland's head.
On his testicles, you mean? But you know,
it's
it was
fine.
a big,
It's just long.
Yeah, it was long.
Like,
it was
what are
very
we
weird,
doing?
but since it was intercut with other
Long.
footage, it was
Just them getting dressed.
It really was a long scene. I was like, damn, this is
really
a long
long.
fucking shot. Like, no
It
wonder
just
the movie's
keeps
2 hours.
going.
But anyway, the big
Apparently, it's rumored that they actually had sex.
Yeah, right. So it took many years for Donald Sutherland to say no, it didn't happen, and I'm sure Warren Beatty wasn't happy about it because he wanted it cut from the movie.
Right.
And the British film company that were distributing, they cut the whole scene out, and then people were pissed off that they weren't being able to watch it in theaters, I guess. And one producer said it did happen. Donald Sutherland said it didn't. To me, just looking at it, it didn't look like real sex. It looked
There was no
very-
penetration there.
Right. It looked.
He would have
like
been slipping
dry
out every
humping.
time.
He would have broken his dick in half.
Yeah, I mean that's.
The dick can't handle that much flexibility. It's not
When you're
meant
having,
for
like
that.
when you're having sex with somebody as a male on a female, it's like you kind of have to stay in a position for a while. If you roll around like that,
It's gonna flop out.
That's flopping out. You'll
Have you got? I
break
mean,
a
Thea,
valve
you
in
don't
your
know
dick.
about this. You
Or
don't know
that.
about this, but perhaps some of our male listeners do. Have you ever had your nut push into your inner thigh, and it's just the most painful thing?
I've
And
sat
you
on
just-
my balls by mistake on a toilet, and it was like I saw it into another dimension. It was.
Actually, this happened to me
horrible.
today. I was riding a bicycle and I went down a curb and the seat bumped into my nut and like I almost doubled over. I almost fell off the bike.
Listen, one time I was shaving, right? I was shaving nude, and I put alcohol on my face for like the blood, and some of it like dripped down my chest and went to the tip of my dick. And I felt like I put my dick in a fire. It was horrible. It was one of the
Thea,
worst.
you're so lucky that you don't have these issues.
I am. I'm happy.
But that's
to
like
not.
a whole other pharmacology thing that a woman has to deal with. That's
Yeah,
Look,
but you know
there's
what?
a lot of
Our suffering
It's
is
like-
worse.
That's
It
like another
doesn't-
That's like H.P. Lovecraft that he has to deal with.
But I
Anyway,
don't dangle though. I can't
don't mean
imagine.
that in a bad way.
You know?
But
It's not the same.
anyway,
Yeah,
so-
ours are like exposed. Like
Yeah.
they're out there.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, I
Anyway.
dangle.
Okay,
up
anyway,
top,
Donald
I guess. It's
Sutherland
different.
is really good at sex.
Yeah, well, yeah, he looks like. Hey, you know what, Donald Sutherland?
is
I'm
fun.
sure I'm sure Donald Sutherland, and plus he was wearing a toupee. I thought that was his real hair. I don't know
Was
how long
he?
ago he was bald. Yeah, I know. It looked like a real good haircut style.
Yeah.
on him. Anyway, apparently, like I think Donald Sutherland back in the days, because he's not a traditionally good-looking guy. As a guy, just saying it from. I don't know if Thea has any. I don't know if he wouldn't judge that, but like
I wouldn't
he
say he's
sort
a
of maybe
good-looking
was
man.
the Jeff Goldblum of his day. Maybe I'm not sure. Sort of a non-traditional handsome guy. I'm not sure.
dork?
I don't know.
Jeff
I don't know if
Goldblum
he's
was
ever
also
been-
the Jeff Goldblum of his day. But
That's true. So anyway, this whole movie starts off with Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, he's in this movie too. Starts out with Sutherland's character with his wife. They're busy. I guess he's a restorer of churches, and they were planning
yeah,
on
like
a
of
trip
old
to
buildings.
Venice.
Yes.
This isn't part of the short story. Apparently, in the short story, they just go visit Venice as a vacation because of the daughter's death. They don't.
Venice
Right.
before it was
Job.
underwater.
Yeah, and so their daughter has an accident, falls into a ravine, drowns. He tries to take her out. That shot was really good when they pull her out of the water. I thought that was really beautifully shot. Really beautiful shots. The stuff with the... I wasn't sure what type of movie this was because I didn't know anything about it. I kept mistaking this film for a movie that I saw as a... when I was very young. I think it was called Don't Go to Sleep. And that's a horror film. I think that was a movie that was done for TV, and I remember being
I don't think
scared
I've ever heard of
shitless
it.
of it because
Right.
Do you
Don't Go
think
to
this?
Sleep.
Go on, you go on.
No, because Don't Go to Sleep has a really terrifying moment in it where this girl, like, there's a family in a car, and I've only seen these two scenes, and I was like, I'm not watching the rest of this movie because I was like a kid, and I was like, fuck this. And these kids play a trick on their sister, and they tie her sneakers together, her laces, and the car gets to an accident, she burns into death in the car.
Nice.
And then, it's just horrifying. And then at the very end, I guess there's a scene where somebody is like you see a ghost's face in the night, like you hear the daughter saying, "Hey, look at me," and I was like, "Fuck that!" And I just looked away from the TV screen, and I kept mixing that with this because it Don't Look Now, but now I realize it's a completely different film, and it's not even really about ghosts. It's about what, Thea?
Wait, what?
It's about psychic. It's
about psychics and mediums, and apparently Donald Sutherland had a problem with the movie having a negative view on mediums and psychics, which I don't
didn't
think
have a
really
negative
does.
view on it.
I don't think it does.
I guess that's what he thought. I mean,
they end up being correct.
I know, but they're selling it as a horror film, I guess, and maybe.
Do you think this guy foresaw that sex scene before it happened?
He was beating off thinking about it.
Could be.
So anyway, they flash forward. Their son is in. It was so funny because I was like, "What happened to the son?" Because they just don't mention.
They just don't acknowledge him.
They don't acknowledge
him.
They're like,
they don't even care about him.
I was like, did he also die?
They were like,
they don't even have a scene of him talking on the phone with him or anything.
They made sure there wasn't even a fucking creek at that school that he went to, so he wouldn't fall in. So now, Donald Sutherland is an restorer of old churches in Venice, and he's dealing with this. What is that? A father, Bishop Barbaggio, I believe his name is. I'm not sure. His name is John Baxter. His wife's Laura Baxter, and they're still reeling from the kid's death. But it seems like they're okay. It doesn't seem like they're.
He's okay, and she's not great.
It's maybe like a year after or something like that, I would assume, or probably 6 months later, something like that. So they go to this restaurant, and who do they run into, Thea?
They run into these sisters, one of whom is blind,
and they
keep looking over at them and talking about them.
Mickey.
They bump into them very obviously on their way, and then she follows them to the bathroom and helps the not blind sister get something out of her eye. And then
isn't that ironic?
They're like really.
One is blind and the other has something in her eye.
That's right.
It's very heavy Rosemary Baby vibes with this movie because I didn't know what was going on. I knew the original Rosemary Baby was
same
cults.
era.
So from this, I thought it was cult stuff too.
Yeah.
And I
thought they were bad. Also, there's a scene where they're laughing. What was that about?
For no reason. Yeah.
Well, I didn't understand.
I think they're trying
maniacally.
They're trying to make you think that they're evil.
Yeah, it was like a red herring, but I mean, there was no explanation whatsoever. Imagine they were psychically seeing the sex scene.
They're like, lol.
That's why she was grabbing her tits in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys ever, Danny or Thea, did you ever do that whenever you got upset, you just grabbed your chest and in a suggestive manner?
Always.
Telling your mom?
That's the first thing I do is I grab my tits and moan.
Was she upset or was she horny?
I don't know.
She was seeing. Part of her gift involves grabbing her tits.
I mean, look, if she'd done it every time, I would have been like, okay, consistency.
This was an extra gifted gift in that scene.
So while this is going on, there are some murders going on near the Venice Canal. They keep picking bodies out of the water, and I thought that was a pretty effective scene when they pull that lady's body out of the water.
Yeah.
It looked real. I mean, you can tell these movies in the 70s that none of the people in the background are real actors, so you just see a bunch of people gawking in every scene.
It's nice to see old school Venice, you know.
It is cool. Yeah.
I feel like I didn't catch stuff when I watched it, and I need to rewatch it because I didn't really pick up that there was a serial killer until they directly said there's a serial killer.
See, what I want to know is with this type of film, because I mean, now that we've all seen it, I wonder if they thought that the audience was smart enough, or that they were just bullshitting, and then at the end they were like, "See, don't be stupid. This is what we were showing you from the beginning." Because the whole thing is that it's one of the blind girls, she specifically says that John has
a gift,
psychic powers.
Yeah.
He said the little girl had gifts too, right? And he says, listen, he can see, he has powers. I don't think she necessarily says he can see, she just says that he has powers.
Right.
So that's how he knew that the daughter was drowning.
Right.
So throughout the film, we sort of see these weird sort of imagery that comes through, and it feels like just weird. It doesn't feel like we're watching something that's happening in the future. Like the sequence that when he sees his wife on a boat when she's supposed to be thousands of miles away visiting their injured son.
Mm-hmm.
How far do you think England is from Italy?
Are you asking me a serious question that I don't know?
I don't think it's thousands of miles. I don't know.
All right, what do you want me to do? I'm not fucking...
England to Italy distance.
But, so watching the film, I'm like...
1,250 miles.
Is it that far? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I stand corrected.
So, because the thing is, at the very end of the film, when we do find out that John had seen a premonition of his wife going to his funeral, I was like, you know what, that was pretty good. Like, I liked it. I didn't feel like it was like, you know how Dario Argento throws shit in for no reason.
Yep.
Like everything in this movie there was an actual reason for it.
We're all like, yep.
And the slide he's looking at the beginning is of the church that he's
Of the
going to
dwarf,
restore.
yeah.
And that woman is in the pew, and
That's the only
then it
thing
bleeds.
I feel like I need to rewatch it with the knowledge I have now.
That's the only thing that was Argento-ish, is the little dwarf woman.
Yeah.
That, because what's weird is also a dwarf in the book, a female dwarf in the short story that it's based on. And I just felt bad because I was reading the.
How can she successfully kill all these people?
I don't know.
I don't know. By
if she had,
surprise.
if she had springy shoes, maybe. But it was so funny because the explanation.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
The explanation of in the Wikipedia, it's like killed by this hideous dwarf, and I was like, that poor actress is just playing a dwarf killer. She's not like, you know.
Well, hopefully they put like makeup on her and didn't just say you're perfect.
I think she was like an older lady that was a dwarf. That was the only part that was like, that felt like 70s
was rough.
shit.
Yeah.
And plus there was no like.
And the way the knife goes into the neck, whatever, like when she stabbed, it just kind of goes in, like.
and there was sort of no explanation of like what happened to the dwarf. She just got away with it again or something.
I mean, yeah.
Because like you sort of led, I guess the whole point of the film, like you think, oh, he's gonna solve this or something. He's trying to find his daughter. That's what people think throughout the whole film. But then you're like, okay, now he figures out he's been seeing his own death, and that's the point of the story. It wasn't that through his death he was able to catch this killer. So so it's a little strange that it sort of ends at that point.
If they had cell phones, she could have just called them and been like, "Don't go. There's a serial killer," and that would have been it.
It's true.
That was weird, right? When the one sister was holding on the other one, she was like, "Don't." She was like, "Tell him not to leave."
She's like, "Get him!"
She's like, "I gotta stall for at least 2 more minutes,
20
though."
minutes, yeah.
Yeah, they're not very good at accomplishing what they set out to do.
She's great at grabbing her boobs, though.
Were there any bad things about this film that you just didn't understand or didn't get?
Thea.
I mean, it's slow in the way every 70s movie is a little bit slow to us now, I think.
Right, yeah.
But it probably wasn't then necessarily. A lot of people commented that this movie is like one of the first sort of not only horror movies that dealt with this, but dealt with grief in the way that it does.
Mm-hmm.
And which sort of reminds me of like modern day Hereditary in a way. It's like,
I got you, yeah.
but it's not. I don't know. It doesn't feel as nuanced now. Maybe because they have a weird 12-minute sex scene for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
didn't feel like they were in such grief.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't see that much grief. Like the only parts when the mother is sort of happy hearing about the daughter being seen, you know, when the
Right.
blind woman sees her. Like I thought that was interesting, but I didn't feel like this was a very grief-filled movie.
No,
like,
neither
not
did
at all.
I.
Because
So-
they were. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I just meant like when you see it in the context now, it's like, well, we've seen grief played out much more potently than that. It's not.
Right.
They don't really seem sad right off the
Like
top.
everything is like this is an hour and
Like
50
picture like
minutes.
Midsummer
Yeah.
grief.
Because like
Yeah.
like Midsummer and Hereditary, those are like masterful fucking things.
Yo,
about grief.
that guy needs to make more movies.
And I think
He will.
But this one, it seems like we're immediately chopped out from the grieving process and just sort of seeing them already sort of at an okay place. Do you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing. I don't see.
Well,
like,
what did you guys think of the hanging off the ladder thing?
I
scene?
was scared shitless.
That was
watching that scene.
terrifying.
It really was, because apparently they told Donald Sutherland like he was rigged up with a wire, but the guy didn't. The guy, one of the
Didn't tell him
that set
when.
it up, he said that if he would have let go, because it wasn't rigged to him completely. It wasn't rigged. It wasn't.
So he
supposed
really
to-
could have died?
Yeah, it wasn't rigged in the way he spun around on it. Because if he would have
Oh,
let go, he would have been
God.
assed out and would have went right through the fucking floor.
Oh my god.
shit.
But just watching that scene where he's walking up everything, and I was like, "Fuck this!"
It's so
and
scary.
it's really him for the most part that I
It is
saw.
Yeah.
definitely not up to OSHA standards.
That was an extremely frightening sequence, and I'll give the movie that because
Yeah.
you see the depth of him to the ground. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you see Jackie Chan films, and like this happened in the fucking 70s, so you know, obviously he survived that shit.
Yeah.
But you're watching it going, oh my god, because you immediately put yourself in that place, and I'm like,
so scary.
I wouldn't. They would have to CG me eating a sandwich.
They could have me so rigged up, and I would still be actually terrified in this.
Yeah.
I know. And thing is, like, very rarely do you see that nowadays with a lead actor sort of doing that because they're smart now. The only other guys, like, if you ever seen like Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies, which I actually suggest people should watch because they're kind of fun. But there's like Tom Cruise got onto I think he's one of the tallest buildings of Abu
Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi, right? And he's like just sitting on the side of this building where it looks like you can fall, like the beginning of Super Mario 2. You know, you just keep falling. It looks like that.
That stresses me out.
It is very stressful, and I thought that was really well done.
I can't even look over the sides of buildings with my feet on the ground and a thing in front of my body.
You know when you see those Russian videos of people just standing on top of fucking buildings and looking over? I'm like,
I hate it.
What is it?
I hate it so much.
They have some building. I mean, they have this bridge in China where it's like glass, and you just walk over, and it's like.
I would do that, but I'd be so. I mean, I went skydiving twice, so like I can do it, but I can't. For some reason, looking over the edge of a building gives me vertigo.
On the side of that bridge, they have this suspended thing where it looks like logs, like little logs that have emptiness in between them. And they rig you up to a thing where you can just hop from one log to the next. And I'm like, I still wouldn't do that shit. It's just like absolutely frightening. And for them to do that, that's why there was this film it's a documentary called Free Solo that apparently won an award for Best Doc.
I know, you keep telling me to watch it.
And it's about,
it's about Han Solo.
Yeah, but it's
he
about
goes
a guy
to jail and they have to free him.
He does rock climbing, and apparently it's like super unnerving. So I will give that to this film, that sequence alone, because it's not done with any music, and like when he's struggling, you're like, holy shit, because you don't know. You think obviously you don't think he's gonna die in the middle of the film. Like when he does die at the end, I was like, oh, so I wasn't really surprised that he died at the end of the film. I was actually surprised how graphic the blood was, because I think this must have been after. I think the first movie that had violent gore in it really, like, back then, and I think it was a Hammer Frankenstein film, because I remember seeing something about that, because I think they shoot Frankenstein in the eye and he bleeds out. I think that was the first time we saw colored blood. Yeah. And I think this must probably be right after. I can't be too sure, but I thought that scene alone was more frightening than anything else in the film. Like the dwarf is not scary. I mean, the
it's a little creepy.
But I've seen pictures of her before, because this movie's been talked about forever.
Right. Yeah,
so I sort of knew that was where they were going.
Right.
I didn't know she was going to kill her, but
the only scene that actually was freaky to me was the hanging from the thing. But other than that, I love the sex scene. It's very well shot.
Okay, I assume there was a lot of blood because I think that Hammer Frankenstein movie was 1957. So apparently there was a lot of bloody films by the time that happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else. I don't really have any negative aspects for the film. Like once I was sort of done with it, and they went with the angle of like, oh, these were all the clues we were giving you, but then they sort of hit the viewer over the head, saying, "See, remember this, remember that, remember this." But I thought it worked for it. Like I don't blame them for rewinding and showing everything at the end to be like.
If they ever remade this, they should make the same movie but play the Saw reveal music at that part.
Yes.
And they'll do a slow motion 360 around somebody.
Just add that music onto it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually enjoyed it. I understand why people, enjoyed it a lot. Danny forgot about the movie until it started.
It started all coming back to me as we talked.
So what, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this film? Do you think it was, it deserves the praise that it got for so many years?
Yes, quite.
It's well made. I liked seeing Venice in winter. Like you never see that really.
Yeah, it's very
it was
beautiful
cool.
City.
Yeah, it was a cool setting.
Yeah, Venice is amazing.
Like running around, and I actually got nervous when the wife was running around at night in the streets because I thought there was a pervert coming around killing women. It is
spooky,
and shit like that.
how narrow some of the alleys and things are.
Yeah, it is a very spooky film. That's what I like about it.
You can get lost so easily too. Yeah. That's what's crazy about it.
So, Danny, did you go around that area, or you haven't been to Italy?
No, I was in Venice. Right? Yeah, I was in Italy 4 times. I went to Venice twice, and I don't know where I saw it because I was just wandering around lost and drunk the whole time. So it's hard to say, but it's very easy to get lost.
But But I thought the film captured a good spooky feeling of Italy. You know what I mean? Of Venice, that area itself.
And being sort of displaced in a place and also like in grief. It was like that's an interesting thing that could have been touched on more, maybe.
Right, yeah, and there was a lot of religious iconography, but I don't feel that this movie relied on religion as a storytelling aspect at all.
Yeah,
which is nice. You know what I mean? Even though they're dealing with churches, it wasn't. Hey, look, they're gonna show a giant cross because
which
you
was
gotta have
relieving.
faith or something. So Thea, what rating would you give this film?
I would give it a 7.5. I think.
Ooh.
Out of 10. And I would give it a 7.5. Woman just like really, really boob hugging herself while she's pretending to think about Donald Sutherland running around, but she's really just picturing that really long sex scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would give it a 7 out of 10. Thinking you've found the reincarnation of your daughter, but then it's just a laughing dwarf who cuts your throat, and you bleed so much you fuck up the building that you're in, and it's going to take forever those people clean that.
That old chestnut.
What rating would you give it, Danny?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Also because it's very well shot, but it's not scary at all. Out of 10, you were telling your sister, you have to stop this man. He's gonna die, and she's just holding you and not listening until the man gets away and dies.
With that, Danny, Thea, what's the final word?
Bucket.
Danny, what's the final word?
0, 0, 0, 0.
The Horror Deconstruction.